Well, okay. Here we go once again. As you can see here on my screen, we're going to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, of course, in which concerns the dietary law, right? The dietary law of the Most High, and also the eating of animals' flesh, right? So we're going to start at verse 2, and it read, "For thou, which is you, Yasharal, art an holy people unto the Most High thy power, which is the Lord your God," written here, right? "And the Most High have chosen thee, Yasharal," which is the so-called Negro, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians of Negroid descent, "to be a peculiar people," not to be confused with eccentric, right? "Unto himself." Okay, so just as I previously brought out in the previous video, a lot of people have to be mindful of the definition of these words nowadays, man. Especially our people, man, concerning these scriptures, right? Because as I previously brought out, they switched around the definition of the word peculiar and eccentric. Okay, now, as I've stated before, I brought out the two definitions of these words in a video that I've done like probably 2 years ago. And with the definition of peculiar, it wasn't associated with the definition of eccentric, but now you have it associated with the definition of eccentric, and now you have eccentric associated with the definition of peculiar. So they sort of privily merged the two together. And then when you look up the definition of peculiar, it says unpleasant surprise, right? An unpleasant, weird people. Right, so if it says right here at the beginning of verse 2 in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, that the Most High have chosen us to be a peculiar, holy, set apart people unto himself, how are we unpleasant? All right, that's like an oxymoron right there. That don't even go together. So how in the hell can peculiar mean unpleasant for a similitude, man, or weird or off or quirky acting? All right. So a lot of our people have to be mindful of the definition of these words today, man, because they privily being switched around, just as other words as far as gay, right? You have queer, so to speak. You have the F word, all right, concerning the LGBTQ or the alphabet people, right? And I'm not even going to say it because, YouTube, they have a habit of, suspending you or warning you, right? But you know what I'm talking about. So that's just to give an example of what's being spoken about here. Okay. "Above all the nations that are upon the earth," which is concerning the other nations that's outside of Israel, right? Verse 3, "Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing." Okay, so we're not supposed to be eating anything abominable, all right? Not just flesh alone, okay? Verse 4, "These are the beasts, okay, which ye shall what? Eat. The ox, the sheep, and the goat," okay, in which we're supposed to be doing every major festival, which is the three major festivals, and for the new moon, which is tonight, okay, from May the 18th until May the 19th, all right, at evening, okay, when the sun is completely set, right? Verse 5, "The hart and the roebuck and the fallow deer and the wild goat and the pygarg and the wild ox and the camus." Verse 6, "And every beast that parteth the hoof and cleaveth to the cleft and to the claws and cheweth the cud among the beasts that ye shall what? Eat." Verse 7, "Nevertheless," which is but, right? "These ye shall not eat of them that cheweth the cud, or of them that divideth the cloven hoof, as the camel and the hare." All right, so that's strike one, as I always like to say, for Islam and the so-called religious church, right? Because a lot of our people that's mixed up in the religious church, they love to eat rabbit stew, right? And then, of course, you have the people of Islam, right? They're permitted to eat their camel if they're in dire needs, if they're desperate and near death, right? So right here, the Most High in the scriptures, which is the Torah and the Tanakh, he's letting you know that you're not supposed to be eating these things, man, right? So the people of Islam can't be saying that they're following the ways of Abraham or Ibrahim because they're eating camels, okay? And then, of course, our people that's in religious churchianity, they can't say that they're keeping the ways of the Most High and following Christ because they eat rabbit stew. All right, Salakia for the people in the background. And the coney, for they chew the cud, but divideth not the hoof. Therefore, they are what unclean unto you. So we're not supposed to be eating that, man. Right? Verse 8. And the swine, all right, which is also known as the pig, the hog, the warthog, right? Because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall what not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass, right? And then it says right here, these ye shall eat of all are in the waters. All that have fins and scales ye shall eat. Verse 10, and whatsoever have not fins and scales ye may not eat. It is unclean unto you. Okay, so right here, this is letting you know that all of the fish that have scales and fins you can eat. Now, there's a distinctive difference between the fish that have permanent scales and scales that you can easily scrape off or peel back, right? Those are the clean fish that you can eat. But also, you have to be careful with that because there's a lot of genetically modified fish out there now that the wicked of the world is creating and raising in fish farms. And also, you have a lot of genetic editing fish that's out there. Like, for example, salmon, right? Unfortunately, salmon was like one of the best species of fish to eat, right, because of the omega-3 fatty acids. But now they done genetically modified the salmon, right, with like 3 other different species of fish in the oceans that's unclean. So you can't even really eat salmon now. It's been like nearly 2 years since I ate salmon, man, when I found this out. But unfortunately, a lot of people, especially within our nation of people, they're not doing their due diligence and searching these things out, man. So I still see them in videos on social media eating salmon, man. Right? And it's crazy because now you're eating unclean. And then on top of that, when they're raising these fish in these fish farms, they are feeding them all sorts of abominable things, man. Like pig feces, chicken feces, cow feces, mixed with soy protein, man, which is poisonous for you. All right, so you got to do your due diligence in this thing, man, and that also goes for fish like the tilapia. That's a genetically modified fish, man. That fish can't even be found in the wild, man. But of course, it have scales on it that you can easily peel back in the fins. So it's very easy to be deceived by this fish because you would think that it's a clean fish because it have skins and scales, and then you can pull it back, salakia, scales and fins. All right, so you got to be very careful and do your due diligence with this, man, right? So this is the reason why I'm bringing this to you through the Most High's dietary law, okay? Whatever he makes known unto me through the Spirit, I make known unto you through the videos, man, right? Verse 11, of all clean birds ye shall eat, okay? What's those clean birds? You have the so-called game, all right? You have your hen, your chicken, your quail, your turkey, all right? Those are all of the birds which are animals' flesh you can eat, man. All right, so the Most High is plain right here. The Most High is definitely plain right here, man. But unfortunately, you got people who's going around who's so-called vegans and vegetarians, or choice vegans, as I like to call them, right? You're going around talking about how the Most High commands us to be vegans, man. And there's nowhere in the scriptures that the Most High tells us or commands us to be vegans, right? How can he command you to be a vegan and eat nothing but fruits and vegetables, or the fruit of the vine, so to speak? And right here, he's commanding you through the law in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 14, and also in the book of Exodus chapter 12 and Leviticus 23, that we have to eat meat, man, for the high holy days and the ordinances. Just ask tonight for the new moon. Okay, when the moon is fully submerged in darkness, man, you're supposed to be having your lamb or your ox, which is your steak or your goat, okay, along with your unleavened bread and your wine. All right, so it's plainly stated here, man, in the book of Deuteronomy that we're permitted to eat meat, man. All right. So for a lot of you brothers and sisters that's going around that's using the book of Jeremiah, chapter 8, verse 8, talking about how the scribes' pen is in vain or vanity, so to speak, that's not speaking of the dietary law. That's speaking about how when we was in ancient Babylon and the sinners of our people, which were the scribes also, they joined themselves to the ancient Babylonian customs and they was leading us astray by rewriting scripture. Same as they doing today, man, right? With all of these different versions of the Bible, right? Or even through word of mouth or even on video on social media. They're deceiving our people and leading our people astray, telling them that the law is done away with, right? We don't have to keep the ordinances no more. We don't have to keep the law, statutes, commandments. We're in for everlasting grace, right? We don't have to keep the seventh day Sabbath. We don't have to keep the three major festivals, right? But for a people to say that they truly believe in the God of the Bible and they following Christ, right? Well, the Most High commands us in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, that we must appear before the Most High without being empty, too. We have to have our sacrifices to the Most High, right? For three major festivals every single year annually, man, right? So how can you say that you're keeping the Bible and you're not even doing that, man? That's very important for our nation of people, man, right? So that just goes to show who's the true hypocrites of the world. And unfortunately, you got a lot of people within the faith who's telling you that you should be vegans. They're being hypocrites too, man, and they're leading our people astray. All right. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 18. Okay, so here we go in the book of Genesis, chapter 18. Now, this right here is to add to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, right? Which is concerning the dietary law. For all of those who say that we're supposed to be vegans, right? Or vegetarians, but we claim to be following the most high power of our forefathers, or we suppose or claim to be following within the footsteps of our forefathers, right? Which is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So here we go in the book of Genesis, chapter 18, and I'm going to start at verse 1, and it read, And the Most High Power appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent in the heat of the day. Now, who is this speaking about? This is speaking about Abraham, right? Verse 2, And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them front from the tent door, Salakia, and bowed himself toward the ground. Verse 3, And said, My Lord, if now have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Okay, so he's speaking to the Most High, right? Because it's written in all caps, obviously, right? Verse 4, Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. All right, so now he's speaking to the 3 men, okay, that came to see him. Verse 5, And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts, which is your minds, right? After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do, as thou hast said. So they told Abraham to go ahead and, do what he granted them that he would do, right? Verse 6, And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. All right. Verse 7. And Abraham read unto the what? The herd. All right. And Abraham ran unto the herd and fetched a calf, tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hasted to dress it. All right. So this is talking about a beast. All right. Which is a calf, a clean animal. All right. Which is also known as the ox or the bullock in the scriptures. Right. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before him, and he stood by them under the tree, and they what? They did eat. E-A-T, eat. Chow down, okay, on that calf. Verse 9. And he said unto them, where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. All right, so that's also right there letting you know that even with Abraham and Sarah, which is your forefathers, okay, they ate meat. All right. And he gave it to the 3 men that the Most High sent to Abraham and Sarah to eat, right? Because they were the ones that told Sarah that, she was going to have Isaac. Okay, because Sarah and Abraham, if you read the story, concerning them with this right here, they didn't believe that they was going to have, a child. So, they was given Isaac, all right, in which he already had Ishmael, but, Isaac, is the lineage of choice through the Most High. All right, so even right here, it states that meat was eating, all right, in our nation. Let's go to chapter 27, still in the book of Genesis, to prove this again. All right. And we're going to jump down to verse 6. And it read. Now this is right here is concerning Rebekah and Isaac, right? Along with Jacob and Esau. And it says, and Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, okay, verse 7, bring me venison, and make me savory meat, okay, that I may eat and bless thee before the Most High Power before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Verse 9. Go now to the what? The flock, okay, and fetch me from thence 2 kid of the goats, all right, which is beast. And I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. Okay, so this is what Rebekah told Jacob to do. Okay, because this, like it says here, she heard or overheard or eavesdropped on Isaac saying to Esau that he was going to bless Esau. Okay, and Rebekah wanted Jacob to have that blessing, so she told Jacob instead to go to the herd or the flock right here, as it's written here, and fetch her 2 kid goats. All right. Verse 10. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. Verse 11. And Jacob said unto Rebekah his mother, behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Verse 12. My father peradventure will fill me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver. Okay. And I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. All right. So right here, it's letting you know, for all of the people that love to say, that Jacob stole Esau's blessing, Well, that's not true because right here it plainly states that Jacob didn't want to deceive his dad. Okay, but Rebecca, she was wanting Jacob to have that blessing that Isaac was giving Esau. So she told Jacob to go get, two kid of the goats so that she can, I guess, slaughter it and kill it and dress it up and, make some savory meat for Isaac so that he can enjoy it. And then, being that he would enjoy that meal so much, he would give the blessing on to Jacob. But Rebecca was doing it in a deceivingly way because she wanted Jacob to dress up as Esau by putting on the furry coat from the goats that she slaughtered to give to Isaac. All right, so right here it's letting you know that Jacob, he initially didn't want to do it because he thought to himself, if his dad finds out that he's Jacob, then he's going to have a cursing instead of a blessing, right? So it shows here that Rebecca was the one that told Jacob to do that, not Jacob on his own or according to his own will to go in there and deceive his dad Isaac into receiving Esau's blessing, right? So if people would just read and get the context of the scripture, they won't fall for the false doctrine that's being passed around in Roman Catholicism and religious churchianity that Jacob stole Esau's blessing. It wasn't of Jacob's mind to steal Esau's blessing. It was Rebecca. Rebecca told Jacob to go in there and deceive his father into thinking that he was Esau and bring him the savory meat that he loved. Okay? So that's all people got to do, man. You just got to read. And also, it's letting you know that your forefather Isaac ate meat, okay, which is two kids of the goats. Two kids of the goat, which is animals' flesh, man. All right. So after reading something like that, it's merely impossible to say that the Most High commanded us to be vegans. But right here, right in the book of Genesis, chapter 27, it's letting you know that your forefather Isaac ate meat, man. Right? Meat that he loved, as it's written here in the scripture. All right? So that was a custom of the Hebrews, man. I can't say Israelites because Israelites came after Jacob, right? But our forefathers ate animals' flesh, man, right? And this is also in the book of Genesis. All right? So getting back to the book of Genesis. As it's written here. Verse 15. And Rebekah took godly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which was with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, her younger brother's son, Salakiah. Verse 16. And she put skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. Verse 17. And that just goes to show that Esau must have been a very hairy man, right? Because if she had to put the fur or the hairs of the goats on his hands and his neck, right? Wow, he must have been very hairy, right? Just as his descendants of his people are today, man, right? Verse 17. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. All right, so right here it's a clear distinction between savory meat and bread. Okay, now according to the scripture, which is in the book of Leviticus, the 2nd chapter, it lets you know that, we're supposed to be baking the meat upon the frying pan, right? But it's not to be taken in a literal sense because according to that definition of meat, it's speaking of bread. Okay, but right here in the book of Genesis, chapter 27, verse 17, it makes a distinction between what's meat and what's bread. Okay, so you can't confuse the two by saying when it says savory meat, it's talking about bread. Literally here, it's talking about animal's flesh, man. Okay, and then it says, and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob, man, right? And then we're going to jump down to 25. And it says, and he said, bring it near to me, and I will what? Eat of my son's venison, and which he thought was Esau, right? that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did what? Eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. Okay, so this right here is speaking about literal wine. All right. So that's also to let you know that it's not a sin to drink wine, but wine does have a tendency to take you out of your soberness, and you can get drunk from it, right? Let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 18. Okay, so here we go. We're in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, and I'm going to jump down to verse 10, and it reads, in the most holy place shalt thou eat it. Every male shall eat it. It shall be holy, which is set apart unto thee. Verse 11. And this is thine, the heave offering of their gift, with all the wave offerings of the children of Israel, right? Which is the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, the Seminole Indians of Negroid descent, right? I have given them unto thee, and to thy sons, and to thy daughters with thee, by a statute, what? Forever. All right. Every one that is clean in thy house shall eat it, meaning that you're not in sin. Okay, you're not in willful sin. Even if you was in ignorant sin, you know, you still have to be considered clean, which is not in sin, to keep the high holy days, right? And it's going to let you know exactly what this is right here, right? Verse 12. And the best of the oil, and all the best of the wine, and of the wheat, the first fruits, right? Which is the Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks, right? Of them which they shall offer unto the Most High, them have I given thee. Verse 13. And whatsoever is first ripe in the land, which shall bring unto the Most High, shall be thine. Everyone that is clean in thy house shall eat of it. Everything devoted in Yasharal shall be thine. Okay, which is the Most High, right? This is the sacrifice that we're giving to the Most High. All right. So that's the ordinance, man. This is something that we have to do. All right. And this is concerning the Feast of First Fruits, which is in the beginning of June, in which we should be keeping, man. All right.